Well, earlier when we were sharing whether we were centralized or decentralized, we are highly centralized at Baylor. As a result, most of the recruiting that exists at the graduate level comes through the auspices of the graduate school. And if you ask yourself why we recruit graduate students, if Denny Kramer were here, he would give you a different answer. He would say raising the awareness of the university's graduate programs among recent seniors and having the university associated with high quality research. It'd be very good. But from the vantage point of the dean, it's different. I want the number of applications to go up because we charge per application and that helps fund our operation. I want the number of admits to go up because I've been charged with raising the graduate enrollment at Baylor University. I want the GREs and GMATs to go up because that's a measure of the quality, at least of the input. A debatable measure, but it's a number. And I want some of those students to start paying more tuition than they are now. If we just buy them all, this won't be good for me. We have to start making more money for the university than we are now. So my question to Denny on a regular basis is what works and what doesn't? Not what do you like and what do you enjoy, but what works and what doesn't. Now, quite a while ago, and in fact, since Joanne gave me the Geezer Award, we can say precisely, it was 20 years ago, I became dean of the graduate school at Baylor, and we had two people in recruitment, and they did two things. One was in charge of making posters that we would put in these big cylinders and mail out everywhere. And he was very good at making posters. They were attractive posters. The other one was in charge of going to graduate fairs all over the country. And she was very good at graduate. She knew everybody at all the graduate fairs, and we had this big booth that we set up, and she was in the network. And they were very busy. That was a lot of time. I was a sociologist in an earlier life before I became graduate dean. And you know, like when you have a hammer, you always see nails. So when you're a sociologist, you always see an opportunity for a survey. And I surveyed all of our graduate students. And do you remember seeing a poster about Baylor? Did you encounter a Baylor representative at a graduate fair? Now, I didn't know what the percentages ought to be, but it was a pretty darn good survey. I mean, I do know how to do that. In both cases, the percentage was 0. Nobody remembered a poster. Now, maybe they saw it and forgot it, but nobody remembered seeing a poster, and nobody even been to a fair. And I had two recruiting people, and that's all that they did. And I told them they had to stop doing that. We weren't going to do that anymore. Now, because they were very skilled, they got some other jobs in the university, and they made more money than they were in the graduate school, and so I think that turned out well. But we started doing different things. Now, which I think worked better. I will tell you, the posters were replaced by brochures. And we started mailing out brochures all the time. And they were pretty, and I liked them. They were slick and had color pictures in them. The surveys showed the same thing. None of our students remembered looking at our brochures. Now, the faculty liked them. They liked walking around with the brochures. But every year, they'd get a new faculty member, and they'd want to put that faculty member on the list. And we'd just spent a ton of money making this brochure, and I told them it didn't make any difference who was on that list. Oh, yes, it does. So then Denny moved us to on-demand printing, where we created our own online. And we did cut the price a lot. We could add faculty members, they were hired. But it's still, Denny, nobody's looking at them. You know, why are we doing this? We still do it. But here's where we're moving next. Here's our next iteration. We're moving off from brochures. We're telling the departments that we're going to do one-page descriptions, front and back, of their program using a style that fits into a graduate school view book that tells all about the grad, and this one page goes in. Now, I have no evidence anybody looks at view books either, but again, the people, they like making them. They're pretty, and you can show them to the president, and he likes them too. Regarding the graduate fairs that we no longer go to, we recently started going to one again. Denny wanted to go to the Big Ten Graduate Expo because we had made an initiative to beef up our STEM graduate programs, and he said, nobody knows about us, and this is what... And the other reason I wanted to go to that is because we asked about it, and they said no. that Baylor wasn't going to get admitted to come to their elite graduate fair. And that, of course, that makes you want to go more. If you can't get in, then there must be something good. And so we kept asking, and eventually they let us come. We went for 3 years. We brought faculty, spent a lot of time and money, and we kept track of everybody that signed up. And then we'd see, did they ever apply? Did they do it? There were people that inquired. A smaller number applied. Nobody ever enrolled. 3 years, we got 0 enrollment. Now, an interesting thing on that, those who applied were those who had disciplines the same as the faculty we sent. I'll come back to this in a second. But at the graduate level, your faculty mean a whole lot more than your recruiting people. So somehow you got to, the faculty. Now so I pulled the money on that, didn't we? We can't go there anymore. A wonderful thing happened. The faculty that had been going to these, they wanted to go still. They liked seeing everybody else there, and that's good. I mean, they're networking and all that. So now the STEM programs are paying, not me, are paying to send their faculty to the Big Ten Graduate Expo. Now, I'm not sure they'll ever get any students, but that's a good thing, and it's no longer costing me money. So that's worked out well. And also this year, for the first time, I don't know if any of you have done it, we're going to go to the Black Doctoral Network Conference in Atlanta. I think it comes up next month. Take some of our precious few African American faculty, and even if we don't recruit any graduate students, and I don't think we will, at least it'll be an opportunity for them to network, which they don't get in Baylor, for heaven's sakes, an opportunity to network with a large number of African American faculty. So sometimes you do these things even though the bottom line doesn't take you where you want to go. If that stuff doesn't work, what does work? According to our surveys, at least, what works is the web presence. The website matters a lot, but it's tricky because again, you can, in ways I don't understand, you can track how people get into your website. They almost always go to the department first. If they want a graduate degree in accounting or chemistry or physics, that's where they go first. And you got to make sure that there's some way to drive them to your website, or they'll never see it. But that's good because you don't want them to go, at least at Baylor, you don't want them to go to the big old Baylor website because it is 100% for 18-year-olds. That's what it exists for. It has nothing to do with graduate students. And Bonnie said that we need donations a lot. What we really need is tuition. Private schools are highly dependent upon tuition, and undergraduates pay tuition. So we spend a lot of time. For us, it really works better if they go to the physics webpage, because then we'll direct them back to the graduate school webpage, which is set up not for 18-year-olds, but for 25 and 35-year-olds and people wanting a graduate degree. One of the things that Denny talked me into spending money on a couple of years ago is a virtual tour of the graduate programs at Baylor. Now, again, if you go to our main website, they look like actors. I guess they were really Baylor students, but they're beautiful and they're bubbly, and they tell you to get on this helicopter. We get on a helicopter. We go all over the campus, and we land here and talk to this, affable professor, and then this one. I don't know how much we spent on that. We don't have that much money, but you might want to go to our website. It's cheap. Denny found this firm that would give us a virtual tour, this 360 kind of thing with an actor of our metrics show that a lot of students are going there, and some of the students that are going there are actually applying and enrolling, for heaven's sake. So every once in a while I admit that Denny's right, and that's probably something worth doing. So I would recommend that one to you. One thing I've been trying to get him to do on the website, and he sees it as boring, but I'm going to keep after him. The cost of living, those of us in Texas have a real advantage there. If you got that blue book from the CGS on financial education, most of you got a week or so ago, GradSense, you go to GradSense, there's a cost of living calculator. So Corpus Christi, I told you, is a beautiful city here on the Gulf Coast. I like it a lot. In some ways, you could say it's like San Diego. It's on the coast, large Hispanic presence, lots of modern new buildings in the downtown area. The cost of living in San Diego is 52% higher than it is in Corpus. So if they're giving a stipend 50% more than you. You're still breaking even here. And we need to hit that. All of us in the state of Texas are at a real advantage here. And most of us in the state of Texas, our faculty don't know it, most of us in the state of Texas haven't got a clue how to let graduate students know about that advantage. But I promise you, this time next year, Denny will have something like that on our website. But the nice thing is you can go through, you can say, well, the CGS wants you to look at this, not us. And then, but guess what? Every time you look at it, it makes us look good. Last thing, a CRM. I guess most of you have this. I didn't know what it stood for until recently. It's Customer Relations Management. It comes from the business world, like everything else, it seems like. We had a home-developed one, except for the business school, which has lots of money and clout, and they use Salesforce separately from the rest of us. Denny said that the most wonderful thing he's ever seen is something called Slate, so I'll ask you to check on that. It does look like, from the sales pitch he gave me, that it can really improve and make more effective our attempts to identify students, communicate to students, admit students, hold on to them until they graduate, and follow them even after that, which is, wow, that's almost the very best thing you would like to do in recruitment. I will tell you, the way we had it done, again, Baylor's an undergraduate-driven university, so Denny talked to undergraduate admissions about how wonderful Slate was. He convinced them, there's always money for them, and so Baylor decided to buy it for the undergraduates, and then we can, well, just for a little bit more, we can tag on. Well, I'm not sure. Eventually, we got to tag on. So even though it was our idea to begin with, undergraduate had to get it first before we could. Last point on recruitment, and I've made a couple of references to it. The very best way to recruit graduate students is to first recruit your faculty. Get your faculty to understand that part of their job is, when they're at meetings, when they're out in the community, when they're anywhere, part of their job is to talk up the program and point toward the websites and tell them we would like to have them and help us recruit. Everything I've seen suggests that an accounting professor can recruit students better to an accounting program than a whole room full of recruitment people that we have in our offices.